Hello, this is Father Louis Skirty. We're at part three of Lynne's story. The focus of the story is alcoholism and the role of spirituality in her sobriety. The last two episodes were a foundation of chaos, you might say, and Lynne shared those two information at those two episodes. If you haven't seen them, just put Lynne's story into search bar and you'll hear them. Now we're taking off. Lynne has brought us to the point where she just had an abortion. She's in Arizona recovering from that, and she was just introduced to morphine.
Okay. Thank you again. And here we go, because I can just tell you in a much more fluent fashion how my life was overtaken and changed and how dark it got. From that first shot of morphine, I got out of the hospital and proceeded to know that I needed to find drugs because I still could not sleep alone. Now I absolutely was not going to sleep alone because now I'm a sinner of unforgivable. In my mind, there's a huge difference between an abortion and killing your baby, and lying to your mother or coveting your friend's boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
You can't take it back. You've extinguished a life. It's not. You can't say I'm sorry for that. It was too horrid for me to even believe that Jesus could ever forgive me. Because I intentionally did it. That was one huge factor that really affected me. I thought, other sins aren't so well thought out. Like, I had to make an absolute decision to go through with this. And I was going against everything I valued, all my moral, everything I believed in, I was going against.
Right.
But I did it because everybody told me I should, and it's the cultural thing. And in Washington, D.C., you don't have babies at age 17. You don't. You go on to be nuclear scientists and such. You don't do that. That's what people in trailer parks do. I don't know who. You don't do that in D.C. So now I'm not living my own life. I'm not making my decisions myself. I don't know how. I have no sense of self from the sexual abuse. I don't have my one saving grace, which was the voice, God telling me I was going to do something good, great for God one day.
The voice extinguished?
Yeah, gone. I made it gone. I didn't believe it, and I disappointed God. I sinned. He didn't need me anymore. What was I going to do? I'm out of his radar. So I proceeded to do any drug and every drug so that I could sleep at night. I had to be either completely drunk. I had to obliterate my thinking because in my mind, my sense of reality, because my reality was my nightmare. When I would wake up after doing drugs or a drink, I was back in my nightmare. If I was in the ozone, I could handle life. I proceeded to get 3 DUIs within a 6-week period. I was not put in jail at that point, but I could not leave the state of Arizona. I failed out of school. My mom, who you would think would run out and see what's going on, was not in her right mind. And she had now just gotten remarried to a guy who had 6 kids. And they had their hands full, and the doctor had told her that he didn't tell my mom about the abortion. When I was that sick, she thought I had just a uteral infection because I didn't want her to know the truth. And I was 18 when I had the abortion, so he had to do what I said.
Right.
I said, you cannot tell my mother.
Right.
So she didn't come see me when I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks without a soul. I didn't know a soul in Arizona. I was in with my own thoughts. So anyway, things were going to hell fast. Here I was killing myself. when I meet somebody who tells me that this is the big year that the Pope in Italy, that's where the Pope lives, you know.
Right.
The Pope was going to go through these 3 very, very holy doors at 3 different points or 3 different cathedrals. And if you follow the Pope through these doors as he blesses them, all your sins will be forgiven.
Who said this to you? Do you know?
Somebody I met.
Yeah.
Who knows who?
Right.
And that became my goal. I had to get to Europe to go through those doors. For some reason, I thought that that might save me. I don't know why. So I'm like, how am I going to get to Europe? Well, I was pretty smart, I told you. And I figured out how to fix my transcript, which was pitiful. It was all failing grades. I'd flunked out of the University of Arizona. But I changed them all to B's. Ditto, Xeroxed it and did all this and applied to a program in Michigan that had an abroad program in France, and I got on it. Now, this is all so I could get to Italy.
Right.
French was my, I had a double major at the time, even though I was now kicked out of school because I was making no grades. So I was going under the pretense that I wanted to learn French. So I got myself to Europe. By the way, my mom said, you are not going to Europe until you can sleep alone. Like, this is out of control. Because I got home, I was coming to pack my bags. And she would come in and I'd have all the lights on in my room. And she'd say, why are all the lights on? And I said, Mom, don't touch my lights. Because I thought in the dark, that's when the devil would come. And so she sent me to my first psychiatrist. She goes, I am not sending you over to Europe if you cannot sleep alone.
Right.
This is ridiculous. And of course, I didn't say anything to the therapist. I fudged my way through it. I wasn't going to tell him anything. Anyway, I got over to Europe. I got to Italy. I followed the Pope through. I was at St. Peter's Square and at Easter. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. But I also got a French boyfriend at this time, and that's when I was introduced to heroin. I kept drinking through this period, and I was in and out of drugs, but I was never addicted to drugs.
Right.
Addicted to something. Maybe I was a full-blown alcoholic because I couldn't sleep without it. And I was definitely a heavy-duty partier. Anything to make me out of my reality was all I cared about. And I didn't think about being an alcoholic. I didn't think about being a drug addict. I just cared about the fact that I was going to hell, and I just wanted it to be okay. When I tell my story for alcoholics, I always say, when I woke up in that bed with the nun sitting by my bed, it always gets everyone laughing because I say, I knew I was going to hell. But when I opened my eyes and saw that nun, I was like, oh shit, I didn't know I was going to go to hell this fast. I thought I'd have a little bit of time to think about it. I was like, oh my God. So this is all, mind you, this is my life.
Yes.
And I introduced this 2 sections ago. I said I was in a spiritual crisis my entire life, which is not your typical alcoholic story.
That's why we want yours, because it's so extreme.
Thank you. Yeah, it is extreme, and it is sad. It was dark, dark days for me. I mean, to live with this reality that you're going to hell and truly believe it with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul, it's excruciating. It's talking about feeling alone, and no one could possibly understand. And the wild thing was I didn't judge other people. Now I was hearing right and left, friends, my sister, everyone getting pregnant and having abortions. And I thought, well, they're not going to go to hell because that's not their belief. I believe that if it was your values, if you sinned against your own self, that's when you really had trouble. But if you believed you were doing a right thing and that you weren't killing a person, if you think it's a bunch of what Planned Parenthood told me at the time, they said, picture a needle that you sew with, a little sharp silver needle, and picture a few little cells sitting on top of the point of that needle. That's what you're killing. A little bunch of cells. Now, mind you, I was very pregnant.
Yes.
Who knows what I was killing? But they try to convince you of this. So I'm sitting there in the little room. This is your whole consultation before you go in for your abortion.
Right.
You're told you're just taking out a few little cells. Yeah, and it was terrible. Oh, anyway, so I end up in Europe.
Went to the Holy Doors.
Holy Doors didn't work, and maybe it helped a little. And I thought, but I didn't feel any big spiritual movement, you know. And I'm like, who did I think I was, thinking this was going to help me? Nothing, you know. It was always, I'm doomed. There's nothing to help me.
And you hooked on heroin.
Now I go home, I'm hooked on heroin. I get home, I go back to Arizona. I find another guy, he was in a band, who was a heroin addict. Found him, you know, addicts find each other quickly.
That's important.
I got very sick. I got very, very sick out in Arizona. My mom now knew at this point something was severely wrong. I needed money. I never had money. I spent it all on drugs. Things got really bad. And one day I just thought I knew I need to go home now. I don't know why I needed to go home, but I was dying and I knew it. And I flew home to Washington, and my mom saw me, and I probably weighed 80 pounds. I was in bad shape. And she immediately knew I needed help, and she called for help. And I told her in our kitchen at that time, I said to my mom, Mom, you're wasting your time. There's no help for me. Just let me go. And she said, Lynn, what is going on? What has happened to you? And I said, Mom, I did something really, really bad, and it can't be forgiven. And she's like, oh my God, Lynn. She goes, I love you. I love you. I love you. I promise you, I will love you. You will be forgiven. She goes, did you kill somebody? And I said, yes, I did. I did, Mom. And she's like, oh my Lord, what happened? Who did you kill? And I said, I killed my baby. She didn't understand a word I was saying. And when she finally found out I had an abortion, she was so relieved. Because this is what she said to me. I was shocked. She said, oh my God, you had an abortion? Oh, Lynn, oh, please, I thought you killed somebody. Why didn't you tell me? I said, why? What would you have done? And she said, I would have raced you straight up to Suburban Hospital and had it done properly, not at some Planned Parenthood. And I looked at her like she was stark raving mad. I said, Mom, you would have taken me to have an abortion? What are you, nuts? And she said, Lynn, I had one myself. I said, Mom. She said, right before your dad died, I got pregnant with our sixth child, and your dad said to me, if you don't have an abortion, if you have this baby, we're getting divorced. And I went to our minister and I talked to him all about it, and he told me I should have the abortion. And that was the same as you, Lynn. You should have had it. I was so confused, Doctor. I didn't know what was up and what was down. I just looked at her like my mom had horns on her head. The devil.
And we're going to pick up with that. Wow. I know we don't talk. I'm talking to the audience now. Alcoholism and spirituality was the foundation of the whole set of interviews, but you see where it has as its roots. I mean, in Lynne's life, and of course now we're talking about abortion and the horror of killing a person, and yet the environment that accepts it. So there's all that confusion, and we as Catholics know where we stand on the sacredness of life. in all aspects of it, from birth to old age. This has been Father Lou. We're doing Lynne's story, and it still is the role of spirituality in her recovery. So tune in to the next episode, and you'll hear more about Lynne's story. And if you haven't heard the previous ones, just put in the search bar Lynne's story in friendsoftheword.org. God bless you.